Hello, my friends. I'm Rich Larson, and I'm the RC Tire Guy. Today, we've got an awesome one for you. We're back on the Rieju. We've made a little change, and I am excited to test. But first, if you guys remember, we compared the Husky 300 versus the Rieju 300 in Endurocross and Hard Enduro. If you haven't seen that video, you can check it out right here. The Rieju edged out the Husky in the Endurocross and higher speed technical stuff, whereas the Husky edged out the Rieju in the Hard Enduro situations. I decided, you know what, I want to make this Rieju as tractable, luggable, and controllable as possible, just like the Husky. The Husky was great in the Hard Enduro stuff, and I want to make the Rieju that good. So what did I do? I put on a 36mm Keihin carb. Now, the Rieju comes stock with a 38mm carb. The difference between a 38 and a 36 is all about the exhaust side of the carb. So we've got 38mm inside diameter of the exhaust side of the carb, and we've changed that to a completely different carb, which is a 36mm exhaust side. That's smaller, equaling less power on top, but apparently more tractable control on bottom. Now, the Alfredo Gomez version of the Rieju 300, 2024 Rieju 300, comes with a 36mm carb. So I think that maybe Alfredo's done some testing and he knows that 36 is good. That's what comes stock on the bike. Now, Alfredo rides for Beta now, but he did run a 38mm smart carb. We saw a lot of changes from Alfredo. So, you know, who knows exactly what his preference was until you ask Alfredo. I mean, like I said, I think the majority of the time I did see him on a 38mm smart carb. But that being said, the stock one comes with the 36. So I got to test the 36 and see what the changes are, what the differences are, and does it lug better? Does it lug as good as the Husky that I was testing in the previous episode? So that's what I'm going to do today. Now, I have to say, I started just by riding. I put it on, I rode around a little bit in the street. I can definitely tell a difference. Then just riding to here. I'm going to tell you right now, the bike seems smoother. It seems more controllable, almost that one note. I'm always talking about that one note. It seemed like it was easier for me to find that one note. And you guys will really understand what I'm doing when I start to put it to the test. Hopefully we can get a little bit of simple, technical uphill stuff. We're gonna work on that clutch control, show you guys that kind of, that luggability, that tractability that I'm looking for in this situation. We've got an Endurocross track over there, and yeah, we're gonna find out how this thing does. I think we should just jump right into it with the test of the 36mm Keihin carb on the Rieju 300 MR Racing. Let's do it. We're gonna do a few different tests on this incline. Nice little incline. This is such a good place, such a good thing to work on. You know, this is like that basic stuff that I'm always preaching in the clinics and stuff. So right off the bat, the revs honestly seem a little more consistent, a little more smooth. What I did with the 36 is I essentially put the same needle that I was running in the 38 and the same slide that I was running. Now the main and pilot are different. I can't quite remember what they were. I'll put it in right there. That being said, this is the first test. We're looking for luggability. How deep can we go? Look at that. That right there seems lower than I was able to go on the 38. Let's go until it stalls. That's pretty impressive. I actually was able to go a little bit lower. Now, what we're gonna do is roll back and forth on this incline. Again, this is one of those things I teach all the time, the ability to roll forward, low RPM, nice and slow, and then roll back. Completely comfortable, not pulling in those brakes, letting the engine slow you down. Steady throttle, maybe quarter throttle here, low RPM. Outside of the friction zone, we come in a little bit on the clutch, reduce the throttle just a little. Listen to that one note. That right there, listen to that sound. That sounds really good. That low RPM was something I kind of had a tough time finding with the 38 carb. Something that I wanted to do was just stall just a little bit. So in those slick situations or in the steep situations where I had to push the bike, I lugged the bike down into the bottom and then I kind of used muscle to chug it forward. And I found that I had to give it a little more RPM than I wanted to, and that would end up making the rear tire break loose. So I'll tell you right now, that's an improvement. Plain and simple, 36 carb, that is 100% an improvement. Let's up the difficulty a little bit. Let's do a lot of rocks here, and it's kind of tough, but let's do a walk back and forth. Low RPM, slipping, a lot of rocks here, makes it kind of tough. The lower I get with the RPM, the easier it is to do this kind of stuff. And the reason for that is, if you think about it, it's kind of like the less sensitive the friction zone becomes, right? If you're really revving that friction zone with the clutch, becomes more and more sensitive. The further out you go with the clutch, the more you're revving, the more it's gonna grab, bite, spin, or flip you over. So the lower I can keep that RPM, the easier it's gonna be for me to do maneuvers like that. And understanding the more I have to rev to keep the bike running, the harder stuff like that is going to be. And that to me is where the 38 carb kind of gives me a little bit of problem. It's like I have to rev it just a little bit more than I want to. The more I rev it, the more sensitive the friction zone of the clutch becomes. The deeper into the friction zone, the more that engine bites, and the sketchier, right, it gets. That's significantly better. I feel like I'm more controlled already with the 36 carb. Now, what we're gonna do here is, let's do a little switchback action. Oops. What we're gonna do is we're gonna try to hold maybe the whole time, I don't know, hold a wheelie. This is like one of those things, the skill that I use a lot in the hard enduro stuff, where I'm just looking for traction. Listen to that low RPM. I need to quit talking so you guys can hear. Oh, right down to the bottom, dude. Let's switch back here. Oh man, that's so much. I'm telling you guys, that right there, I hope you heard that, was significantly better. I didn't stall it. Go up this rock here. Oh, I missed my footing. Just riding a wheelie up the hill here. Oh, there's your first stall. And that was mostly like I hit a rock and it kind of chugged me down there. But, dude, I gotta say, I mean, you guys can hear there, it drops down into the bottom of the RPM. We almost stall it, but then it comes back up, where I could tell you right now on the 36, that wouldn't happen. This is just like kind of steep, hard enduro type stuff. Cooked it a little. Wow. I mean, guys, this is a pretty significant improvement, I gotta say. That was significantly better. I know I was talking a lot through there, so hopefully you can hear the bike. I might just do a run kind of quiet, maybe shut my mouth. Shut up and ride, right? Be kind of quiet on the way up this so you guys can hear the nuances in the power delivery. I'm trying to be very steady with my wrist, with my RPM, trying to hold my hand in kind of one position, just actuating but never chopping completely. That's a common mistake that I see guys make. They chop the throttle, then they come back on. They chop the throttle, they come back on. I'm always on the RPM in the technical slow stuff. I'm trying to maintain steady RPM at all times and actuate that delivery with the clutch, right? So through doing that there, it kept chugging down into the bottom where I even have like the habit of knowing it's gonna stall from riding the 38, and every time I thought it was gonna stall, it didn't stall. So you guys can hear, oh, right down to the bottom, dude. I stalled it once on that just from hitting a little rock and kind of, I wasn't sure that, I didn't know that rock was there, which kind of probably would have happened on any bike. So again, this is a huge improvement. Let me do one more run. I'll shut up. That way you guys can just hear the bike. Let's just listen. We'll try to do this a little faster and kind of maintain a wheelie the whole way through. Bad start. Ooh, that was interesting. Very good. I like the sound. I like the lug. It definitely feels like the bike is more docile on the bottom. Very smooth, very controlled. You can hear I can lug the bike a little deeper into the RPM, which assists me in holding control and holding traction. Now, I did get a little bit of a spot there where I was kind of trying to snap up a little bit of a ledge, and I have to say, maybe the snap wasn't as aggressive as I thought it was going to be, and that's why I stalled it on that one. Where the 38, I gotta say, that's like the funnest carb to ride. It's very snappy, it's very aggressive. This is going, I think, to take away from that aggression. And you could see there, I probably turned the throttle out of habit at about the same amount that I would have if I was on a 38 to snap up whatever little ledge or little uphill section that I was looking for there. I probably turned the throttle the same amount, and I think it didn't quite put as much power down, so it ended up chugging back down into the bottom and I accidentally stalled it. So maybe that's gonna be the difference here. Maybe it doesn't run as hot, run as snappy, run as fun as it does the 38, which makes complete sense, which is kind of what I expected. But is it better? All around, is it better? That's the question here. We're gonna ride a little bit of Endurocross. I've got a natural Endurocross ride over here. I'm gonna lay down some laps, see what the feeling is on this thing with that 36mm carb. I'm very interested to see how that snap is. Is it as aggressive as that 38? Does it take away that fun to ride factor that I love so much? So let's move on. All right, so we just laid down about 10 laps on this natural Endurocross track. And that was probably the most eye-opening 10 laps that I've seen with a bike change. Going to a 36mm carb on the Rieju, this is extremely surprising. The lug, unreal, right? That kind of hard enduro section that we were goofing around on, that little uphill, doing some switchbacks, keeping the bike down in the bottom. I mean, 10 out of 10. Honestly, really, really good control. If I'm riding hard enduro, that's the setup that I want. Now, if I'm riding Endurocross, I don't like this setup. I have to say the 38 is way better. I was having a tough time putting the power down. I had to roll the throttle way more. It's kind of funny. I said this same thing about the Husky, and everybody was like, oh, change the throttle cam. And you kind of run into the same thing. It's like, okay, yeah, you can change the throttle cam and it makes it easier to roll on that power, but it makes it harder to lug in the bottom end. So you're kind of doing the same thing with the 38mm carb, but the 38 and the 36 is a huge difference. The 36, I was having trouble in these tight sections, especially this one right here. It's very technical. You come in, you have to really be precise, balanced, being able to place your front tire in the right spot to get that double blip. This is like a really tough section, and I was having a tough time getting it perfect. I felt like I couldn't rev the bike enough to get up and over this obstacle with the little momentum that you have. Again, you're kind of coming off of that rock, almost coming to a stop as you go to place your front tire on the next obstacle. It's slightly undercut. I don't know if you can tell on video, but it's undercut. You really have to get some loft. It's almost more of a jap zap to get up and over it. Very important to find that precision between clutch and throttle, front tire placement, body position, everything. And because you don't have momentum, you really want to rev that bike. You're looking for the snap. And the thing is, the 36 doesn't quite have the snap that the 38 does. On the straightaways, I was rolling it on wide open, and it definitely does not pull as hard as the 38. So if we were doing some hill climbs, we might run into an issue with that. We'd be like, oh man, you know what? It is better for hard enduro, but on the hill climbs, it doesn't climb nearly as well. So let's talk about what the average rider should do, right? I mean, this is, I would say, closer to the average rider's trail. I mean, this is a really technical Endurocross track. In fact, I think I'm the only person that rides this track. But that being said, it's more high speed, more of a, single track style. Well, honestly, I would pick a 38. I would just leave the bike stock. I would use the Rieju as it comes, the stock racing or pro version. I think it's really, really good for the average single track rider. It's a very fun bike to ride. Like I said, it's very fun in Endurocross. In hard enduro, I might go to the 36. I think I need a little more testing. I need to get into some bigger climbs, see if it holds me back when I'm holding that bike completely wide open. As far as the lug goes, it's incredible. It lugs so good. It tracks perfect. It's really everything I want, but I would love to rev out just a little bit more. Now, of course, there are other options. I know Smart Carb, they really recommend the 38. Actually, Colin from Power Chicken Off-Road, where I got this bike from, he was running the 36mm Keihin and said, I want a little bit more top end. So he's actually gonna test the 36mm Smart Carb. Maybe that's gonna let it rev out a little bit more. Really, you're just kind of looking for the best of both worlds, right? In tuning, you know, it's always one of those things where you're just trying to create the most well-rounded bike possible, where you can go and ride Endurocross and love it. You can go and ride hard enduro and love it. And that's kind of what we're always searching for. Having the most well-rounded bike possible is what I'm always shooting for. And I gotta say, the Rieju is very close. Like I said, I think the 38 is an overall better setup for the average guy. I think if you're specific to hard enduro, like I said, I'm gonna do some more testing on it, but I think that 36 is pretty dialed. If we can get it to rev out a little bit more, I'd be really happy. What makes me really excited is Rieju is now developing, right? We see a completely new engine, new starter, fuel injected. They're doing throttle body injection and a new clutch. That's another piece of this bike that I think could be a little bit better, is that clutch. As it starts to get hot, the friction zone becomes a little bit smaller. I've abused it and the plates are still solid. I mean, we've got to be 50 hours in and the plates are still great, but I could use a little bit better. I'm always hoping for that KTM status or the beta, that Belleville washer, the diaphragm clutch, such a solid setup on beta and KTM. And that's what I want every bike to feel like. Well, Rieju is going to have a diaphragm clutch and throttle body injection. Now, again, I've mentioned this before, but from what I've seen, Dominique Ajavi on Super Enduro this year, it seems to me that that bike retains the snappy, fun to ride characteristic of the 38mm carb, and I hope has a little bit more of that smooth, tractable control for the hard enduro. So maybe this TBI system or the throttle body injection system that Rieju comes out with is going to be the best throttle body injection system. That would be awesome. I cannot wait for them to come out with that, and I hope I can get one. And I hope you guys are enjoying this stuff. This is a lot of fun to test, and I really enjoy it, you know, coming out here on a beautiful day and get ripping, and the dirt's mint today, a little bit slick as it tracks around, but man, I could not have asked for a better day. Thank you guys so much for the support of the channel. I hope you're enjoying it, and if you are, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram at RCMoto, my personal Instagram page at RichLarson511. Go to richlarson511.com for my clinic tour dates, and until next time, keep shredding.